I'm soaking big live baits on the full moon. Hi, my name's Roger Osborne. Here I am at one of my favourite places again. I'm down at an absolutely beautiful beach. Got some lovely big baits and of course some beach worms. And while I'm going about my business, I'll be sharing with you the process I went through to get to where I am right now to have a fish tonight. Had a few decisions, a few choices to make, and I'll be showing you the gear that I'm using. Stick around to the end for a free PDF download which will outline some vital keys from today's session. And if you're enjoying these videos, please make sure that you like, subscribe and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. It's totally free and it really helps me make more videos, so I really appreciate it. What an awesome afternoon. Let's get into it. I'm glad I chose this location because it was pretty messy on some of the other beaches, and I just can see it's just going to be really pleasant fishing here. The wind's dying down. What wind there is at my back, and I can see that I can get my baits comfortably beyond the breakers just into that fish zone. And it's actually a full moon tonight. So I like fishing in a full moon because it's just beautiful, and also you can see really well, provided there's no clouds. Now, as always, I've got some lovely fresh beach worms, and my plan is I've caught some really big mullet today in the lake. I caught a couple of garfish as well. So I have them, I brought them along as dead baits. One of them's too big to use as a whole garfish. I might fillet it. My plan is now just to have a fish for bread and butter species with the worms, and just wait till the sun gets a little bit lower, and then I'm going to start whacking those big mullet out there and let them sit out there in the hope that a beautiful big mulloway is going to swim along and just woof one of them up. But while I'm waiting for that to happen, I'm going to enjoy the beautiful surrounding and undoubtedly catch some lovely fish along the way. So, time to put some worms on my hook. See, I've got a bit of spaghetti, a little bit of spaghetti in my bait box. They're not huge worms. I like to make sure that I crumb them because otherwise you just can't hold them. They're too slippery for putting on the hook when you don't have sand on them. Makes it much easier for feeding them on. So I recommend crumbed worms. Crumbing is the go. Of course, once they hit the water, the crumbs disappear. So there you go, that's one lovely bait there. Beautiful, ready for a fish. Now I'll whack the other half of this worm on my top hook. I've got a double hook rig. The hooks I'm using in this rig are actually just a size 2. They're a size 2 mustard long shank worm hook, red in colour. And you can land a lot of fish on this hook. It's a big enough hook to land a large fish, but they're a good profile for the worms. I like the long shank. There you go, I've got my top bait there. Now I can go and just enjoy chucking a line out. There's a tiny little bit of weed on the beach. I really couldn't see any weed in the water. I think there's some weed on the other side, but couldn't really see any weed out here. Just going to walk out a little bit. The tide is coming in. High tide tonight is just after dark, actually. I'll give this a little flick. Okay, that landed about right where I want it. So yeah, we've got a high tide at I think about 9 tonight. Gets dark around 8:15. My bait only just landed in the water. It's literally was in the water for about 30 or 40 seconds before I got a bite. And I was just thinking, oh no, it got off. But I had a fish on. So my top bait has been removed. I momentarily had that fish on, but it was really very quick then, so that's exciting. I just met this fella on the beach before. He's just down there. His name's Greg. Absolutely lovely fella. Really good having a chat to him. And if you're down at the beach and you see me fishing, please come up and say hello. I don't mind at all. Happy to chat. Well, I had a bite really quick in that first cast. Hopefully I don't miss it next time. Oops. I'm very expectant now. Because I had a bite so quickly, I pretty much landed in the same spot. So we'll see how long it takes to get a bite. It was probably a brim or a whiting, I think. It didn't really bite like a salmon. I reckon it's been about a minute. Haven't had a bite yet. It wasn't like the other night when I did that other video and it was just so dead. I was fishing with beach worms and pilchards. Had no bites on the beach worms, which is so rare. I think when I cast that mullet out, the live mullet I have is so big, and I'm not actually doing the slide baiting thing tonight. I'm going to do that in some other videos. So I'll need to walk out a little bit just to get the live mullet out far enough. The rod that I'm using, this one with the worms, is just a relatively light beach outfit. I have a reel on it. It's a 6,000 size reel, and I have 15-pound monofilament as my main line. The rod itself is rated 6 to 12 kilos, and it's 9.5 feet long. I decided that I wanted to have a fish for mulloway tonight because I've got a high tide just on dark or just after dark. So I put a little bit of time in to catch some live bait. The mullet that I caught, you'll see they're quite big. They're probably 30 centimetres long. So I need pretty big hooks for those fish. So I wanted to be able to pick a spot that had a decent deep hole or a gutter within casting distance, or even if it was not, I could have used the slide baiting rig. And I looked at a few beaches actually, but I could just see that one spot that had the best looking hole, I really only rated it about a 5 out of 10. And the high tide tonight is actually only 1.2 metres, which is a pretty small high tide. But even so, I could see that when the tide came in, the really big waves were just going to be smashing in this spot, and it was kind of like, and also it was a 2K walk from the car, carrying a bucket with water and live bait. So I'm thinking, I really only thought it was a 5 out of 10. So I actually opted to come where I am now because I'm protected from the swell, and the wind is from the southwest as well, so it's kind of offshore. And I know I can get a decent bait out beyond the breakers. I have caught mulloway here before. So while I would probably only rate this spot for fishing for mulloway at maybe about a 6.5 out of 10, it was still a much more enjoyable option than going to one of the other beaches where really there wasn't much deep water or decent holes. There's just a lot of shallow water and big waves. So it's one of those things, it's like when we want to do something, we don't always have the best conditions or the right conditions. That was a bite. That was actually quite a sudden bite. It hit the bait quite hard. I actually have got this fish on, thankfully. I think it's a brim, that's what I reckon. Yep, that's what it is. Tell you what, brim can bite quite hard. That tide's coming in, isn't it? Look at that. He's a lovely little fish. He's probably about 29 centimetres, 29, 30. He swallowed the hook, so I'm going to keep him anyway. But okay, so it's great when you can, while you're waiting around for big fish, you can catch beautiful fish like this. So I'm switching gear now. I've got a 14,000 size reel here spooled with 15 kilo or 30 pound mono. And my rod is actually a 13-foot rod. I've upgraded from my 12-foot to a 13-foot, and I've actually got a 15-footer at home as well, which I'm going to start cracking out shortly. So this rod, 12 to 20 kilo is the rating on the rod. So now I'm going to whack one of those big mullet on. Very basic rig. All I've got is a star sinker with a lumo bead above the swivel and a really big hook. That's a size, I'm not sure if it's a 10-0 or a 12-0, but when you see the size of the mullet, I need a big hook, otherwise I'm not going to have any barb exposed to catch the fish. So I'm going to look in here into my little goodie bag. You can see the size of these guys. So that is a solid fish. I'm just going to hook it the conventional way. So I'm going to hook it between the dorsal fin and the other fin towards the back end of the fish, but above the backbone. I'm going to pin it straight through there like that and toss him out. Now I'm going to wander out a little bit because I've got to get him out just beyond the edge of the breakers. And of course there's a set coming in right now. Look, that mullet has got a lot of life in him. So hopefully he'll be sending off a few distress signals out there to attract the big fish. So I'm just going to wait for a moment, a little gap in these waves, because I want to get out a little bit further, because it's actually a really heavy, big bait. I think I'm well above the casting weight, actually. Thankfully, I got a little break in the waves. Just got to make sure I don't get my microphone wet. I'll get in trouble. Okay, so this is a good little break. I'll just wait till this wave goes past. Not that I have to get it out that far. I'm going to have a jump. Whoa! But, all right, here we go. Walk a little bit further, and then okay, well that went just beyond that breaking wave, which should be sufficient. That was a heavy bait to cast, I tell you what. You can't fish in places where you've got to cast a long way when you've got baits like that. I would love to see this rod buckle over with a big fish on the other end. You know, when you are fishing for larger fish, or if that's your main goal, is to put some big baits out, it's always good to have a lightweight rod or something that while you're waiting, because often when you've got big baits, it's not usual where you're going to get lots of bites, you know, all the time. It's usually a bit of a waiting game. So while you're doing that, you may as well have a fish with some bait like beach worms or different things, so that while you're waiting for a big fish, you may as well be productive. Stretch. Just going to have a look at my line and see if it's going straight out. Or if it's, yep, hasn't really changed position, so that's good. All right, I'm going to whack this worm bait out to the left, away from my live bait. It's an absolutely beautiful afternoon. The sky is stunning. There's some amazing clouds out to the west, and even out here actually. Just in the right spot. While I wouldn't rate this location as a legendary spot to catch a mulloway, because I had a plan and I went to a bit of effort to catch some beautiful bait, you don't really want to waste that. Still got to make the most of your time, and it's good to have perseverance and try and line up the right things. Doesn't always work out that way. You don't always get all the conditions in your favour, as I mentioned before. But at least if I'm down here in an okay spot, I'm using the beautiful bait that I caught and I'm giving myself a chance. So that's a good thing. Uh-oh, my rod's bending. That's always exciting when your rod's buckled over. Okay, so this is on the beach worm bait. Still got my live bait out over there. Look at the moon. Man, it was hidden behind the clouds before. This feels a little bit bigger than that brim. Might be a salmon. Taking a little bit of line, it's heading over towards my live bait. Stay away from the other line. Come back. Hopefully it hasn't gone near my other line. There it goes. Okay, it's coming back around to the left a bit, which is better. I'll have to check my other line. It's getting a bit closer to shore now. I can see it jumping out of the water, so it definitely is a salmon. Wow. I wonder if they've got more than one fish. Is that one fish or two? What's going on here? You have to bring it up with this wave. No, it's only one fish, but he's pretty solid. So that's quite a solid Australian salmon. That you can see the beautiful beach worm hanging out of his mouth. We do love eating our salmon, so this guy's headed for the dinner table. There's actually a lot of mozzies here tonight. I'm getting bitten. In fact, there's a mozzie on my finger right now. Can you see him biting me? I'm holding a fish and I've got a mozzie biting me. Can you believe that? Oh well, he just died. I think I better check my live bait. I just caught that salmon, but you always need to check your baits and make sure that everything's good, that you've still got bait on the end of your line. Even if he's dead, he's still a good bait. I've actually just been rigging up my third line because I want to put one of those garfish out because they are a really top bait. So I'm going to head over and grab my big rod and see if that mullet's still alive. that's better. My 30 centimetre mullet was still alive and in good condition, so just had to make sure he was all good. So I've whacked him back out. I got him out a good distance that time, so I'll put this over in the rod holder and let's wait. Tell you what, I can see mosquitoes buzzing all around my head and my rod. I caught a couple of lovely garfish today while I was fishing for the mullet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to whack this garfish out on one of my rods on a ganged hook, because it's a beautiful fresh bait. It's going to get the hook. It's behind me here somewhere. Now this is just a set of 3 gangs which I bought like this. And these are 6/0 gangs, so they're pretty good size. I'm just going to line up where his, because I want the top hook to go through his eye. So that tells me that my bottom hook needs to go through the fish about there. So we'll give that a go. So I'm going to whack that through the garfish, through the middle of him, so it comes out the other side, and swing this one up, put that one through the middle also, so that this one, it looks like I maybe come up a little short. Oh no, got to be able to swing that around. Can be a bit fiddly. Look, I've come up short, look. You can see that I've come up about 1 centimetre short of the eye, so I'm actually going to undo that. I want to try and not damage him too much in removing him. Can I get these hooks out without damaging him? That's the question. Yep, I can. Just got to reverse it. So now I need to bring it up. So there you go. A little error. I need to bring it up to about this point here. Put that first hook in, come back, get that second hook in, and then come back and get this one right in the eye socket, which is where I want to be. Now I believe that it's not good to leave this beak part on because it spins in the water, so I'm just going to break that off. So I broke the beak off the fish's mouth so that it doesn't spin around in the water. So essentially I've got this garfish on there without its beak. That's a pretty good bait, so I'm going to whack him out. My line is gone. I just came down to check this line and it is sideways down the beach. Now I've either got weed or a fish. But it's gone totally. Oh, I've got a fish, I can feel it. But it virtually went sideways. I cast it straight out and it's way down here. I'm going to have to go for a walk before I can chuck my other line out. Wow, what's going on here? Here we go. Okay, up with the wave. I have a double hook up. I have a small brim on the top hook and a smallish salmon on the bottom hook. Look at that. So I got the brim there, and down the bottom I have the salmon. So I'm going to get that fella, pick him up and unhook him. So this little brim, he's going to live to fight another day. So I'll just go and gently put him back in the water. Water's a bit closer now because the tide's come up. And I'd love to get that bit of garfish out there. So I bought these light sticks. These ones are clip-on ones. They clip onto the tip of your rod. So I'm just going to whack it on and give it a go. This one's an extra large. It doesn't seem very extra large to me, but I'm going to see how it goes. Certainly is bright enough. Oh, I'm on again. I just was walking past this rod. I was wanting to go and put the light stick on my other line, but this one's loaded up again. It just shows you the value of fishing with a small rod while you've got big baits out. Because while you're waiting for a big fish, you can have a lot of fun. So what have I got this time? That's the question. It's coming in pretty easy, so I don't think it's a salmon. although it's fighting harder now near the shore, so. It's actually another double hookup, would you believe? It's a brim and a stingray. Now that's, unfortunately, that's a double whammy that I can't keep. So the brim will be going back, because he's undersized. And the stingray, we don't want him either. So I'm going to have a go at fixing this fluoro light to the tip of my rod. Hopefully my rod's not too thick for it. It's a triple extra large, so it should fit. Just got to work out which way it goes. So that one goes on there. This side goes on there like that. There you go, beautiful, look at that. The triple extra large worked. My rod was thin enough at the end, so that should make a big difference. Okay, now it's time for the garfish. So now I have on this rod, this has also got 15 kilo line. I've got this beautiful garfish that I caught today, and I'm going to whack it out on the other side of my live mullet. I've made sure that my rod holder is in really strong, because when I've got one of these lines set, I don't want it to get pulled out of the sand. It's got to be able to hold position if something big grabs it. Okay, I'm going to put this garfish out. I reckon something will nail it for sure. I'm just remembering to answer a few questions. I had a question from Jay Tango on a recent video I did prospecting a lake for flathead, where I was using both soft plastics and live bait. And Jay Tango asked, how do I attach, he noticed I'm using braided line, how do I attach the braid to the fluorocarbon leader? And also, how long is my fluorocarbon leader? Well, Jay, I basically just use a double uni knot, because they're pretty easy and they are very good. I've never had one break when I've been playing a fish, and it casts really well. One day I will master the FG knot, but at the moment I'm happy with the double uni. And I normally have a length of leader about 2 meters. These little brim just keep getting me. I tossed my line out again and it was sideways. There's just not very many big ones around. I had a question from Amanda Bear asking me, she said, I love the look of that flounder in my last video, and she said, how do you target flounder? Well, from my experience, flounder really are more of a bycatch that you catch when you're fishing for flathead and when you're using nippers and things in rivers and lakes. They are an ambush predator like flathead, and they're a flat fish. They lie on the bottom and they wait for their food to come to them. So one way of actually increasing your chances is to drift fish. If you're in a boat, you've got your baits out and you're just drifting along with the wind, that's a good way to catch flounder. If any of you guys out there are experienced, or if you've ever caught multiple flounder, please let me know in the comments, because as far as I know, they're not something that you can really target all that much. There are some areas where they are caught more often. I believe Botany Bay is a good place for catching, more than just 1 or 2 flounder. Anyway, that's what I know, Amanda. Now, I had a question also from a guy at Kalala Beach, wanting to know if I'd come and make a video at Kalala Beach or just some ideas on fishing there. I also had an email from a guy asking me about Kalala Beach as well. Well, Kalala Beach is actually located within Jervis Bay. So it's more of a harbour type beach. It's not an open ocean beach. So while it does get swell at certain times, that's the reason it has very little structure. You will hardly ever find, decent holes or gutters at Kalala Beach. It's pretty featureless, really. You've just got, most of the time there won't even be many waves there. So it's a different kettle of fish, and it's not really the sort of spot that you can burley. Personally, I've I've been to Kalala Beach, only been there once. I've never actually fished there myself, but I would think it's the type of place if you just want to have a relaxing fish for some whiting or maybe brim or flathead, you had some worms or nippers, you go down there and not cast out very far, just fish with light lines, 8-10 pound line, some worms, some nippers, maybe some half pilchards. You're most likely just to catch a few whiting, maybe a brim or some flathead, I think. But probably tailor as well just before dark. If any of you guys have got any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them, and I'll answer a few each time I do one of my videos. Now I wound my line in that had the garfish on it, and I'd bought some sets of 3-ganged hooks, and two of the hooks were missing. There was only one hook left and no bait, which is unfortunate. I've hardly ever had that happen where the gang hooks come apart, but in this case they did. Now this is the second garfish that I caught today. It's quite a chunky one, so it's a big bait, but I'm going to whack him on as well. I'm just going to make sure that I line it up properly so that I get the end hook through his eye. And I put this whole big garfish out there and see what wants to come along and eat it. You can see I can spin that around. And that end hook is going to go with a little bit of wriggling. It's going to go straight through the eye like that. And once again I'm going to break the beak off so that it doesn't pirouette in the water. And that'll be a lovely big bait for a very hungry fish. So I've had my live mullet out there now probably, well, more than an hour, maybe an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes. I've checked it twice and it was perfectly alive. So I've thrown it out a third time. I've got it out a good distance into just beyond the break. So, and actually it's about 10 minutes after high tide right now. So it's about half an hour, 40 minutes after dark. It's right on high tide. So I'm going to leave my baits out a little bit longer. I'm going to chuck this other garfish out. So I will have, excuse me, I'll have a garfish, a big live mullet and some beach worms in the water all at the same time. That's a pretty good cocktail. Well, I think I better check my worm rod. I've been busy attending to my other rods. I can see that my line is slack and it's gone down the beach, and that can either mean it's been washed in by a wave or it's got a fish on it. There's some weight on the end. That's interesting. It's heading out straight in front of me, but feels like I'm snagged. That's really weird. Like I was stuck on the bottom. I don't think I've got anything. No. That was strange. I think my sinker must have got buried in the sand. How good is this moonlit night? It's amazing. Really beautiful. I have a fish, but it's just a small brim. So I've got another small brim. There seems to be a lot of small brim around. My top bait is missing as well. He's taken the bottom bait. So I'll pop him back in. If you'd like a free PDF download of some vital keys from today's session, hit the link in the corner or in the description below. Well guys, I've given it a really good shot. It's nearly 10 p.m. I've had a large live mullet out for the last 3 hours without getting a run. And I've also used the 2 lovely fresh garfish that I caught as well. So I'm going to pull the plug now. I think I've been down here, I'm about an hour after high tide. I've fished the turn of the tide, top of the tide, and it's been a beautiful evening. I'm going home with a couple of salmon and one nice brim. So it's always a good idea to fish with some other baits while you're waiting for a big fish. But I'm super pumped, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of this type of fishing until I nail a couple of big dewies. And I'm sure that's not far away. So thank you so much for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you really soon in the next one.